Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tuesday at 10 at Dunebrook. We're so excited to have Dr. Polistico with us this morning. She is a new pediatrician at Northwest, and she can tell us all about her background. But again, Dunebrook, we do child abuse prevention and intervention. We're 33 years old. We do actually interviews. The intervention piece is where we do interviews for suspected cases of abuse in collaboration with Department of Child Services, and we had 420 interviews just last year. So child abuse is a real problem in our area. The exciting part is there's a lot we can do to prevent it. And we have our prevention programs, which we get very excited about. Healthy families, where we go into the home, both virtually and in person, given pandemic, and teach healthy parenting skills. We go into the schools, all of LaPorte County and some of Porter County. It's called Body Safety Class. It's a half hour and it's age appropriate, K through 12, where we teach what is inappropriate touch and what can you do if something's happened, and who do you tell and how do you get help. So children are not afraid of the topic. Taking the social stigma away from abuse is so very important. And then our parent and family child classes, where parents can come and take a class, 5 to 12 sessions. So without further ado, we're very excited to have leaders in our community like Dr. Polistico that will talk to us a little bit about what's happening as a pediatrician in our community, and what can parents do to, one, I guess probably recognize they need to reach out for help, and what are some helpful tips. So without further ado, again, Dr. Polistico, thanks so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah. And maybe you could just tell everyone listening a little bit about yourself. It's so great to have new, wonderful pediatricians in our community.
I am Dr. Sarah Polistico. I'm a pediatrician with the Northwest Medical Group. I am new to the area. I did my pediatric residency in New York,
Ah,
which I moved here. So
mhm.
it's very nice, change of pace too. Love the area. Very nice, especially for like growing families.
Yes.
I have. Basically, the reason why I decided to go into pediatrics is because, back in medical school, I found myself looking forward to my pediatrics rotation. I loved working with little kids, teenagers, and with their parents as well. So if they have any concerns coming into the clinic, it was really nice, like working with them to solve those issues, those concerns.
Right. It takes a real, I would say, gift and a talent to work with children and their parents.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's wonderful. Yes. And New York, I have a daughter in New York. So yeah, we're a little different world here, huh?
Yes, yes, very different.
Yeah, the good and the bad, right. Well, welcome to the community, Dr. Polistico, and we're thrilled to have you. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about your practice.
Okay.
Um,
Oh,
and if
yes.
someone was interested, why it's so important pregnancy for someone to get connected with a pediatrician too.
Yeah, so definitely. So my practice involves taking care of children, starting from when they first come in for their newborn visit up until they turn 18. So that's a very broad age group. And like each age group has very specific like issues and concerns that we need to address.
Mhm.
So for families, especially who have a new baby on the way, it's very nice to like establish that relationship early on, so if like the pediatrician is a good fit for you and your family.
Uh-huh.
Typically, the usual visit to our clinic involves either wellness visits, which would be, just regular checkups, which affords us a good opportunity to check how your child is growing and developing. And we have tools here that help us do screenings so we can catch those like diagnoses, like those diseases or chronic illnesses early on and manage them appropriately.
Right.
Yeah, and then typically we also see a lot of sick visits as well. So
Yeah. Yeah.
usually during this time of year, we have a lot of respiratory infections.
Right.
Yeah, we also take care of more chronic conditions such as asthma, allergies, diabetes, or even behavioral issues as well, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Right, right. And you bring up such a good point, though, Dr. Polistico. And I think, having 27, 24-year-old and a 21-year-old, sometimes they think they're invincible and they can Google everything and, for an answer. But you bring up such a good point that an expectant mother or a very new mother, how important it is to have those well baby checks
Mhm.
because of your developmental screenings that you can catch things early and, I was older having children, and I still was confused about what they should be doing at each developmental stage.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
would imagine you are so good at, assessing and diagnosing and getting help.
Well, yes. Well, that's definitely but part of the job description, as they say. And just catching these things early on has a very profound effect on how they grow and develop the years ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, right. And if you don't catch them, it really can steamroll, whether it's a physical problem or even maybe some kind of mental health issue going on.
Yes.
I think to give the confidence that you give as a physician to say, oh, Gene, you're right on target, or no, we better look at this is just so wonderful.
Yeah.
Great. So if someone's interested in seeing you, Dr. Polistico, where do they go? Just look on Northwest Medical's website or
Yeah,
how?
they can just visit the website, or if they don't have a pediatrician yet, um, they can set up an appointment with either myself or any of our other pediatricians.
Right.
Our number, I'll have to read this just so I don't get it wrong. It's
Okay.
219
Uh-huh.
324 3431. Or they
Yep.
can also visit the Northwest Medical Group website, which is nwmedicalgroup.com.
nwmedicalgroup.com. You can't get any easier than that. Yeah. So 219-324-3431. Thank you.
Yes.
One of the other questions we wanted to ask is, the fallout of pandemic, not only when we were in the thick of it and all the complications, both physically and emotionally with children of all ages, um, it's kind of getting better, we know for sure, but
Mhm.
there is some residual stress. And with the holidays, what maybe advice would you have, or what are you seeing maybe with pandemic? Anything related to pandemic? Maybe let's start with that first versus the holiday stress.
I mean, like the pandemic per se, it would be like an understatement to say like how stressful this has been for families in general.
Mhm.
But most particularly for children, we sometimes, tend to overlook that perhaps. But a lot of the children that we see, unfortunately, have experienced like serious illness or a death of his family member, so that is stressful.
Mhm.
Also, some degree of financial instability for some
Mhm.
families as well. If you have a parent who's lost a job or had to transfer for work,
Right.
that change of environment is stressful on children.
Mhm.
And just having like school closures or closures of those after school programs or support
Right.
programs, I believe has had a profound impact on especially at-risk children.
Mhm.
So those are unfortunately things that are happening. We try to address those as much as we can. Now that things are kind of getting better and
Mhm.
places are starting to open up again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so places like Dunebrook is always like a good resource for these kinds of families.
Yeah, well, thank you, Dr. Polistico. I know, we sometimes think as parents we should just buck up and get on with it and it's going to be okay. But it just see your facial expression when you're like, oh my gosh, the pandemic. Yeah, I mean, it has caused so many problems for so many people. And sometimes we don't even realize the weightiness, I guess, of it. And
Mhm.
I think that's what you're saying. You see that seeing serious illness or a death in the community or family and or job loss and money and school closures or after school, those are all really that's a lot of change, and
Mhm.
that causes stress, and sometimes that manifests itself physically in children and parents. So thank you for talking about that. And I also think maybe with holiday stress, have you seen that yet, or what in the past when you deal with holiday stress?
So for the holidays in particular, it's, I mean, I would imagine it's something that a lot of us look forward to. I guess, especially now, just those kinds of changes in the routine
Mm,
can be
mm,
stressful.
uh-huh.
Um, when school is out and children have like a different routine at home,
Mhm.
it can be stressful too, if they're not getting enough sleep, if the holiday schedule is a little bit busier than usual. You have kids who need, you're waking them up early.
Yeah,
There's a lot of excitement going on. They might
right.
skip meals,
Uh-huh.
so that can be stressful. And also maybe like just touching on both the holidays and the pandemic. You might not be, because of travel restrictions, perhaps you might not be able to do the things that you are used to doing during the holidays. You're not able to do like Christmas traditions or holiday traditions as a family.
Mhm.
So that I think can be
Be difficult.
really, yeah, that can be impactful too.
Yeah. So really a tip or a recommendation, if you would, for all that change, being school's out, sleep's a little crazy, we're excited, maybe you're not eating as appropriately as we should, um, that really check in with your children, would you say,
Yes.
Dr. Lustigo?
Yes, that is definitely a very important thing. Just establishing that relationship with your kids and having like some quiet time to
Mhm.
check in on how they're doing. You can do it during meal times or maybe
Uh-huh.
before going to bed, read a book with them,
Yeah,
whatever they want to read.
yeah,
It's a good time to check in on each other, I think.
yeah.
Another way of perhaps dealing with the stress of these times would be just trying to establish that routine. Kids thrive on
Right.
routines, just
Routine.
having that regular bedtime, regular meal times, and
Mhm.
also like regular meal times would also let other family members kind of
Yeah.
um,
Rest.
bond and de-stress together.
Yeah.
I think
Great.
exercise as well.
Uh-huh.
I think all of us would benefit from a little bit more exercise, even if the weather is starting to get a little bit chillier.
Sure.
Um, you know, that helps with mood in general. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So never underestimate those really simple things, I guess, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
Sleep, quiet time, talking to your children, exercise, so important that even though it gets crazy around the holidays, to try to get some of that regularity in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Great.
correct.
I know our Healthy Families where we go to the home once a week, by the way, is free. All of our programs are free to patients and clients. Literacy is a big thing, and we have grants. We have a whole book closet where we bring a book
Wow.
every time we go to the home visit weekly, and usually those visits are weekly. We bring a new book that's
Wow.
age appropriate for that very thing you're talking about, and that is reading to your child. It doesn't have to be an hour, it can be 10 minutes.
Yes.
But to take a book at the end of the day, read the book, have a conversation, how are you doing on their own terms? That's great advice. Thank you. Yeah. And then finally, as far as any other resources you think the parents should be aware of, I know it's hard for some parents to ask for help, but what resources do you generally tell them to take a look at in our community?
So for the community, I mean, our clinic is a great resource. If they also have that relationship with a pediatrician that they trust, their pediatrician is a great resource as well. I would also direct them to the website of the American Academy of Pediatrics, which is
Okay,
healthychildren.org. So that website has a ton of resources for families.
great.
Um,
Healthychildren.org at the American Pediatrics.
yes, of
Great, thank you.
course, Dunebrook as well.
Yeah, always. We just talked about that today on another interview, was that just ask for help. You can call a place like Dunebrook, you can call Northwest Medical Group and talk to the secretary who answers the phone and say, this is my situation. What do you have any resources? It's making that call. And I know people get frustrated because they may call the wrong place, or people call us for all different kinds of things that may not be particular to our programs, but at least we can get them in the right direction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've
That's
heard
great.
these things from our staff too, so.
Yes, exactly. They're a wealth of information. Well, that's wonderful. Dr. Polistico, thanks so much for joining us today. Is there anything else, as far as you've given us great information about the importance of checking in with your pediatrician, how to locate you online and via phone, and coping with the pandemic and holiday stress? It's very real, and take the time to think about it. And be, what do they say? Be progressive about talking and thinking about it as a parent, because all of a sudden it's here. Don't wait.
Yeah, I think like the bottom line is don't be afraid to ask for help, and help is always here if you need it.
Okay.
And yeah, I hope that whoever watches the video would be able to use like the resources that we provided.
Great.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you are so welcome. It's a delight to meet you. We're lucky to have you in our community, really, Dr. Polistico. We wish you all the best, and I guess it's not too early to say happy holidays to you and your
Oh,
family.
happy holidays to you as well.
Okay. All right.
You
Take
too.
care. Thank you.